we're going to look at how do you get a good sitting balance. You guys already know what the normal sitting balance posture should be. Apologize, you should have this set up and ready. You want the person's feet on the ground. You want the sensory feedback. You want the nice stable base of support. You can sit, and do you sit on the involved side or the uninvolved side? Typically you sit on the involved side. You want that person's, where do you want the pelvis to be? You want the pelvis being a bit of an anterior tilt. Most people will sit in that posterior tilt. So what muscles are necessary to fire to get into the anterior tilt? Pull those abs, pull them forward, and the back extensors. So I can use my hand here, or I can use, say, I also want to be working with their, I want to stabilize. I could be using my leg into her back. Now I've got my hands available. While she's in the sitting posture, I could then be working on some facilitation on her arm. Now I can't do this very long because I don't have a hamstring length to sit. So I'm going to be doing what Dr. Kamek's doing. I tend to sit next to the person. As I'm sitting next to the person, I'm bringing my body up close to them. Bring my hand into here. I could be using my hand. Is it better for a flat hand or is it better for fingertips? Play with it and see with your partners as you pair up. So I bring my elbow here, my hand up here. So I'm getting, I didn't tell Dr. Wallace to suddenly pick her head up and straighten out. But I noticed that her pelvis is in really good position, but she's letting her shoulders droop. And so just knowing that she's got to pull her shoulders back, I've got my hand facilitating the scapular retractors and neck extensors. So I'm up in here.
I don't know how you feel about, like, I would want to just grab it and push it, but I learned that just a light touch can start to kind of facilitate. I don't know how you feel.
The NDT training says you start with a light touch and then you do firmer pressure if the light touch doesn't work. Start with your fingertips and you go to a full hand or flat hand. It is the approach that they recommend.
From a shorter perspective, you all saw him kind of like wrap his legs around here. He can't always appropriately do that, especially if my person is a little bit bigger. So what I oftentimes will do is get behind them if I'm able, and I will use my leg, and then I can kind of use the other side of my body to block them if they're leaning over to the left.
When you're watching us demonstrate, look and see the subtle things that they're doing. Did Dr. Kamek put her abdomen against the person's back, or did she use her knee and thigh against the person's back?
So I kind of do both, I guess, and then I bring shoulders up.
And Dr. Kamek has her thumbs kind of helping kind of facilitate that scapular retraction in the back. She might also have her fingers. Sometimes I've seen people kind of come over the clavicles and just give like a little input that upward, that direction while you're also coming back. Those are good cues too.
If you're worried about the patient going forward quickly, that may not be the best option unless you have like an OT in front of you, or you're co-treating, or a tech or somebody, or you've placed a table in front of the patient already. So you have to set that up appropriately before you move behind the patient for their safety also.
And this is part of why I had Dr. Wallace put her feet on the platform instead of letting her legs dangle. We didn't have to worry with that with Dr. Ulanowski. If I want more stability in front, this might be why I want to do this. Can I use my foot down in here, my hand up in here? Yes. If the person's having trouble, can I guide the movement first? I'd like for you to sit up nice and tall. Putting pressure here tends to trigger trunk and neck flexion. My hand back here tends to trigger extension. My hand here might be to guide. I could also give them a visual cue. I want you to look up. I've got a poster of some hunky guy, and I've got it up on the wall. I want you to look at the hunky guy the whole time you're there. Know your client, whether they like hunky guys or not. So you give them some type of visual cue. Verbal cues. Oh, up tall, head up, bring that head up towards the ceiling. Tip that down a little bit more, good. Now can you hold that? Can you hold it? Good, good. Now stay there, stay there. Very good. Are you sitting erect?
Yeah.
A mirror is a nice thing to have. Are you sitting erect? What are you trying to facilitate now? Postural awareness, sensory feedback. I'm trying now for them to develop that feedback. Feed forward. You're slumped again. What do you need to do to get up straight? You come up straight. Good. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing to get up straight? Bring my chest up. Bring my shoulders back. Then they're starting to develop that feed forward. Oh, I know to sit up straight. I've got to bring my head up. I've got to bring my shoulders back. That's that feed forward that they need to do in order to process their sensory feedback accurately. For you guys, it's going to be pretty straightforward and easy. You'll help each other learn by giving each other very specific feedback. Oh, that made it harder, that made it easier. I could feel what you're talking, I could connect with what you were saying with the verbiage you just used. For your neurologically involved patients, a lot of this is rediscovery for them. This is difficult work for them to do. They're not accustomed to. Oh my goodness, how does that work? I'm not sure how my body works anymore. I don't feel what's happening. You want to add that?
I think the only other little technique, I'll have you do my presentation, I've done this in a while, instructing. Being mindful of the leg, like versus Professor Lesh had his leg dangled all the way over. I'll sometimes just put it on the involved leg like this, because just to give them sensory awareness, even if I'm not working on that leg and working the posture and reaching, I want to be doing as much as I can in the time I have with them. So I may even have their hand here. I've got pressure through their hand. My leg is giving some pressure through the back of their elbow, and then my knees also, you know, help facilitating or giving her some support back here in the back. So being mindful, you want to do as much as you can in the time you have them, and constantly giving them feedback, even if you're only working on sitting or, you know, postural awareness or things like that. So I'll oftentimes drape my leg over to give that sensory feedback through the lower leg also.
Is this closed or open chain work? Closed, because you want the sensory feedback of closed chain. Almost all of NDT work is closed chain. Let's go ahead and move to the front, and we're going to do sit-stand.
Oh, I have one other little thing I just thought of to add to the sitting posture. So we've mainly been talking about the posture like this and the ability to come fully erect and extend. Another major issue, especially with people with stroke or having one-sided weakness, is getting them to midline first and then doing extension. So can you not be in midline? Just shift one way or the other. Just gonna slip over. So sometimes what I have to do is before I even work on extension, I need to get them aligned. And so there's different ways that, I could facilitate at the pelvis and try to see if they could, can you try to sit more on your right hip? Another one I
She's
really
coming
like.
down. She's
Kind
giving
of
it like
elongate
this.
side, yep, and shorten that side. I'm kind of over exaggerating here, but another one I kind of like is with your hand doing like a little clock, counterclockwise or clockwise turning with it as far as input. So if I'm here, you just respond, 'cause I don't know which way I'm going to turn. If I go that way, if I go this way, that's making her want to go more into the, you see that? So I'm trying to elongate that side and contract the left side. So I know, oh, that's not the right way. Okay. So then if I go this way more, okay, if I'm giving her just some light input to go down that way to contract that side, not lengthen it, I'm trying to lengthen this side. If I can get her into midline first, then I can start doing all the techniques we just did to get her extended. Does that make sense? You may find other little tricks that work well for you too, but I like the little clock one. I think that, try it out and see, and you'll feel, oh, does that make me want to go one position or another?
As you're watching other people do NDT, you're going to steal ideas, and it's perfectly all right. As much, you can steal as much as you want. So watching this, I'd never seen that rotation method. I'd always use my hand in here. So I'm going to do both. My arms are long enough, and Dr. Wallace is small enough, I can do both. Now I've got her here, and I immediately go into this. I'm still providing input to get her to stand over here. Could I wrap this leg around here and do my foot, my heel in here? Yes, I could, as I'm doing this. Okay, it's kind of tall. So you can use any part of your body, depending upon how limber you are. Go ahead and scoot around the front. Thank you. Sit to stand. You start off by getting good sitting posture, because that's your initial preparatory stage for coming up to standing. If you don't have them in good sitting posture, how can they fire the muscles appropriately? If they're back in the posterior tilt, and you want them to incline forward, they're not inclined forward, they're rounding them. So they're going to have difficulty firing their glutes. They're going to have difficulty stabilizing the pelvis. When you're going sit to stand, the movement is through the legs. Ideally, normal. The trunk is a point of stability. So you're trying to facilitate stability in the core and movement through the legs. I want her to fire anterior tips, I want her to fire quads, I want her to fire her glutes, and that's after she's gotten a good initial posture. Get some type of seat where you feel like you've got a good movement. I can put my foot on her heel and my leg in front of her shin. So now I'm against the anterior tip. So I got my shoe off so I don't dig my shoe into her heel. You can use this technique, or if you like it in front, you can too.
Yeah, I usually do it from the front.
And when you're in the front, you might demonstrate better from the side. So I've got my heel up against the Achilles tendon, I got my leg up against the posterior tips. My hand on the knee is going to push down and forward. I'm pushing down, I'm doing closed chain, I'm pulling forward. I'm now getting the quads to fire. My glutes, my hands back here. So I've got her in that nice posture. I want you to, a little closer to these. I'm making it hard on myself. There we go. Now I can get in position.
Zoom out of it.
If you can't see, feel free to come around. I got a great view, like right here. So yeah, if you all can't see, I know the cameras, this is just because the angles as far as it goes. Feel free to, come sit around here.
Zoom down as much as it goes.
This leg.
My hand is back in the small of the back. My hand is down in the butt. If I push down against the small of her back, what does that make you feel like I want you to do? Dr. Rose? More anterior pelvic tilt.